Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful. I'd like to welcome you to another in the series, In the Light of Islam. Dear viewers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah's peace and blessings be on all of you. With that, dear viewers, I'd like to introduce you to another in this series in which we are looking at various questions which you have written in. Viewers like yourselves have written in asking different issues about Islam, whether some of them write in as non-Muslims or some as Muslims, new Muslims, a variety of backgrounds. And all questions are welcome. In this segment, we'll be looking at questions concerning prayer. And the first question we have is from Ameena Karim in Dubai. She writes, Dear Dr. Bilal, Assalamu alaikum. I would be grateful if you could please let me know about the following. Is it required for a woman to cover her feet while praying? Should she have her awra covered while making ablutions? Thank you. Yours in Islam, Ameena Karim. Sister Ameena, the first question with regards to covering the feet while praying. It is reported from Salama, one of the wives of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, that she stated that the prayer of a woman should not take place unless she has a scarf on, which is and a dress which is wide and loose and which covers the tops of her feet. And furthermore, Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace and blessing be upon him, had stated that when a girl reaches puberty, nothing should be seen of her except for her face and hands to the wrists. And we also have a well-known hadith in which Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace and blessing be upon him, had instructed his followers to raise their lower garments, to raise them up above their ankles. And after he had instructed them, saying that whatever is below the ankle is in the fire, the women asked him, what about us? If we do that, our feet will be exposed. So he told them to lower the garment so that it would cover the tops of their feet. So, putting these basic traditions from Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, authentic, and from his wives, we can only conclude that it is a requirement for a woman to cover her feet. Her feet should not be exposed by her normal dress when she's outside of her home, and furthermore, when she is in prayer. The second question, should she have her awra covered while making ablutions? Her awra being anything beyond her face and hands to the wrist. If she has to wash her arms, can she expose her arm? If she has to wipe her head, can she expose her hair? If she has to wash her feet, can she expose her feet? Well, one cannot make ablutions, wudu, without washing these body parts. At home, in circumstances where there are no males around, then of course there's no question on the matter that one may expose the body parts when making wudu. However, if one is in a public area, for example, one is on Hajj, and there are no private areas in which the person may make wudu without exposing these body parts, then one tries one's utmost to avoid exposure, possibly using other women as shields for them, or holding up a blanket or whatever, and they may make wudu behind it, to avoid exposing these body parts. Now, if one is in a circumstance where one cannot find any other means, then of course Islam doesn't hold the woman to account because prayer is compulsory on her, and it's better for her to make the prayer having exposed her arm to the elbow whilst making wudu and exposing her feet, than to not do these and not make the prayer. And we cannot really say that she has the option of making tayammum here, because water is available for her and it is not harmful to her. So we'll say in general that she should cover her aura when making, aura being her private parts of her body, which are supposed to be covered. We're not talking about the major private parts, but the minor ones, which is like her feet and hands up to the elbows, her hair, when making ablution. These should be covered when she is public, outside of her home. She should have these areas covered in general. And if she's making ablution, she should not expose those to others, males that is. But if she is on Hajj, for example, as I said, and she's in a circumstance where she cannot avoid doing this, then it is permissible for her to go ahead, asking Allah's forgiveness, and He knows best what her intention was. The second letter we have to look at today is from Fujairah, from Asif Khan. How can the Christians be convinced about Islam being the true religion? I would be obliged to have your responses regarding the above. Yours sincerely, Asif Khan. Dear brother Asif, truly, as you said, gossip is not allowed in Islam. Gossip and spreading rumors, slander, etc. is a major sin in Islam. Islam does not permit us to do this. So it's something we should avoid. Now, the question you raised was, why is it so common amongst the sisters? Actually, it's not just amongst the sisters, meaning Muslim women. It is generally attributed to women, gossip. Women are known for gossip. Why? Because traditionally, in many societies, men are out working. They don't have time to spend gossiping. They're busy. Whereas the women stay at home. When they get together, they have nothing to do. Then they start to talk about others. In Islam, this is something prohibited. It is a result of a vacuum and an emptiness, a lack of knowledge, a mind which is not busy with what is beneficial. This is why in the West it is commonly said that the idle mind is the devil's workshop. That is, a woman or man, but mostly women, because traditionally, or in most societies, women tend to be at home, a woman who is not involved in educating herself, even in the home. She's not involved in educating herself, studying, improving her knowledge, communicating with people, either teaching or learning, etc. She's not involved in that process. Then she tends to have a lot of spare time. And that spare time, with no guidance, no source of guidance coming to show her the correct direction, then it's very easy for Satan to become busy with her, use her to spread gossip about others. It is part of our nature to be curious, to want to know what is going on with so-and-so, what is going on with so-and-so, what is going on here and there, etc. It is a part of our nature to be curious. The root of gossip comes out of this curiosity. However, curiosity in and of itself is not something which is despised in Islam. In fact, it is held in high esteem. It is the basis of science, where a scientist is curious. He wants to know, or she wants to know, what is the reason for this? What is behind this? What are the forces around it, etc., etc., in order to understand these forces and be able to master the forces and utilize them for our benefit. So curiosity has its place in science. Curiosity has its place in learning. So many times the Prophet Muhammad used to ask his companions, do you know what this is, or do you know what that? Encouraging them to question. Allah will ask us that in the Quran many places. Have you seen the one who denies the judgment? الَّذِي يُكَذِّبُ بِالدِّينِ. Allah commonly uses this kind of rhetorical questions there to cause us to be curious, to want to find out, want to know. However, when this curiosity goes beyond the acceptable bounds, it becomes dangerous. When it leads to eavesdropping, people are curious, we want to know what they're saying. So we listen in on their telephone conversations, we eavesdrop, we try to listen in on people's conversations, not invited. Prophet Muhammad said, whoever listens to a people's conversation without being invited will have molten brass poured in their ears on the day of judgment. Severe punishment, penalty for this crime. Furthermore, in Islam, we know the law is an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, as was revealed to Prophet Moses. Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace and blessing be upon both of them, maintained that same law of retribution. That is, if I poke out your eye, then the law will give you the right to poke my eye back out. If I knock out your tooth, you have the right to have my tooth knocked out. Of course, compensation can be given or can be accepted, in place of this, if the person who suffered wishes to accept the compensation, but it is their right to insist on retribution if they wish. However, Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace and blessing be upon him, had said that if a person sees another person peeping through a keyhole, for example, peeping into the privacy of your home, etc., and you were to throw an object in that person's eye and hurt their eye, there would be no retribution against you. You would not be held to account. It would be their punishment. Islam is opposed to peeping Tom mentality and eavesdropping mentality, wherein people go beyond the bounds to find out what is in the privacy of other people's lives. And as I said, it's that curiosity where people want to know, well, what is going on with so-and-so? What is happening in this person's life with so-and-so? And people start to pass on information, and the information goes from fact to fiction. When it reaches the area of fiction, now we're dealing with rumor mongering and gossip. And sometimes the fact may not be acceptable also, because we are prohibited to backbite. And when Prophet Muhammad was asked by his companions about backbiting, if what we say about them is true, is there harm? He said, that is backbiting. If what is said is false, then it is slander and even greater sin. So, to speak about others behind their backs in a manner which is not pleasing to them, which would not be pleasing to them if they heard you, such is backbiting and part of gossip and forbidden in Islam. So, why we now find it so much amongst our Muslim women is because of the fact that they have become ill-educated in Islam. They are ignorant of the Islamic requirements. They are not in a process of education, improving their knowledge, growing spiritually. Instead, they are just going through the motions in the home, or even on the job. They are not in that process of growing Islamically. Once people get out of that process, then they become open to gossip. Even men. Men may sit and start to gossip also, talking about others, where there is that spiritual vacuum. But where that vacuum is filled with remembrance of God, with recitation of Quran, with prayer, charity, etc., then a person is so much involved in righteousness, they don't have time for such things. So it is the ignorance that is now prevailing amongst Muslims, which has made gossip a trait amongst our women and even amongst the men. The second question, convincing Christians about Islam. How can we convince Christians about Islam? This is, of course,